All right, today we are going to talk about what a tag question is and what do we do to punctuate it? How do we use a comma to punctuate tag questions? And then also we'll talk about what it means to directly address somebody or something. A direct address, what is it, and how do you use a comma to punctuate it? So stop. It's grammar time. So let's think about this. When you write, you're going to use a comma to set off the part of the sentence that asks a tag question, or when you address a person specifically by their name when you're talking to them. So let's talk about a tag question. A tag question comes at the end of a sentence that makes a statement. So you say something, you make a statement. It's a way of asking someone to think about or agree with what you've just said. Use a comma to set off a tag question from the rest of the sentence. This is really quite easy. If you look at the examples down here, you'll see what we're talking about. This is a big game for us, comma, isn't it? So you can see there's a question. This is a big game for us as a statement, and then you're asking somebody if they agree with you. This is a big game for us, comma, isn't it? Or look at this next one. You don't want to lose, comma, do you? If you didn't have that comma for the pause, this is a big game for us, isn't it? You don't want to lose, do you? That slight pause, you don't want to lose, do you? Is what you need to do when you're reading it, when you're punctuating it, when you're writing it. That's called a tag question. Let's take a look at this video.
Hello, grammarians, and hello, Paige.
Hi, David.
Paige, I have a question for you.
What's up?
You like cheese, don't you?
Why, yes, I do.
So, Paige, what I've just asked you is an example of what's called a tag question. So I'm making an assertion, and then I'm actually looking for confirmation. So I'm making a statement, and then consumed by doubt, I have to turn, comma, and ask you for confirmation. So I say, you like cheese, comma, don't you? And so what's cool about tag questions is that they kind of follow this positive-negative flow. Mm-hmm. So it begins with a positive assertion, like, here is a thing that is true, and then the doubt. So you then negate it to ask the question.
Right.
You can also do this backwards and begin with a negative assertion and ask a positive question, like, this won't hurt, comma, will it? And we're using the comma to perform its separating function, because that's what commas do, and separate between the assertion and the doubt question. And that's what tag questions are. So that's one of the things that we're, sorry to just launch into it. So today we're going to talk about tag questions, direct address, and using commas in the context of yes and no.
Right.
So, Paige, how are you?
Why are you asking me this?
Because it's an example of direct address. So if I start off an utterance by directly addressing you, there follows a pause. I would say, Paige, comma, how are you?
I see. That makes sense.
But also I'm interested in your well-being.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm good.
Good. So if you're directly addressing a person, it doesn't have to be just Paige. It could also be me. It could also be Sal, whoever. You would say the name followed by a comma, then the question, or whatever the sentence was going to be. Like, Paige, I'm going to the grocery store later. Do you want some cheese?
Right. I do, definitely.
Oh, okay.
I want some cheese.
So then in that response, actually, you could have the final thing we're going to talk about today, which is yes and no commas. So when you're answering a question, whether yes or no, you kind of use yes or no as sentence adverbs, kind of. It's an introductory element. So you would say, yes, comma, I would love some cheese. Or no, comma, I hate cheese. If it were like an alternate universe version of you.
Yeah, no. I definitely love cheese.
But that's how it works. You would use, say yes or no and follow it with a comma. So this is just another example of how powerful commas are. You can use them in all these different separating abilities, right? So you can separate between the tag question, the positive assertion, and the negative question, like you like cheese, comma, don't you? Or this won't hurt, comma, will it? You can use it in direct address, like Paige, comma, how are you? And in yes or no responses, like no, comma, I hate cheese, or yes, comma, I would love some cheese.
Commas are so powerful.
Yeah, for real.
The viewer can learn anything, can't they?
Yes, Paige. I believe they can. David out.
Page out.
So, commas truly are powerful. And so that tag question, those examples down here on the bottom, but also they talked about direct address. That's when you name a person that you're speaking to. The noun can come at the beginning. So you can see right here, Darla, comma, I know how hard you've worked this season. So you are addressing them at the beginning. Darla, this is you. I'm talking to you. Darla, yoo-hoo. Darla, comma, I know how hard you've worked this season. Or it could come in the middle. What do you think, comma, Coach Katie, about our chances of winning? So Coach Katie here is who you're speaking with. You put that in the middle. What do you think, comma, Coach Katie, about our chances of winning? You could take that out and just have a normal sentence. What do you think about our chances of winning? But when you are directly addressing, you're directly speaking to somebody, there is a pause so that you could tell who you're speaking with. So you could do that at the beginning, the middle, or the end. I think we're ready for the game, comma, Daria. So you let them know once again that you are addressing them, you're speaking to them. And so really it's just a normal sentence, but then when you insert a name, it goes, those commas go where the pause is. So of course at the beginning, Darla, comma, that's where you pause. But in the middle, that's a little tricky because there needs to be a comma before and after who you are addressing. What do you think, comma, Coach Katie, comma? Notice how there's two. It's like you're inserting Coach Katie. Anytime you insert something in the middle, you need commas around it. And then also at the end here. So that's direct address. So let's take a look here and practice very quickly with this passage. Where do we place these commas? So let's take a look here. This is a really important game, Daria, Olivia said. The two girls stood on the basketball court. The gym was packed. Think about where you put that comma there. All right, if this were a live lesson, we could do this. I actually have to move it this way. So we have this. This is a really important game, comma, Daria. And I guess they want us to move it up. It's not going to be easy. There you go. This is a really important game, comma, Daria. And then technically there is a comma after Daria because you're speaking. So this is a really important game, comma, Daria, comma, Olivia said. So once again, when you're talking about dialogue, you have the comma, said Olivia, or comma, Olivia said. All right, so look at this next one. Daria saw the Cougars' star player walking toward her. We're not talking to Daria there. Daria saw the Cougars. That doesn't work. So you have to pay attention who you're speaking to. It says, you missed all your free throws last week, didn't you? Said the girl. Well, there you go. Where is that comma? Think about it. You missed all your free throws last week, didn't you? Right there. There's your comma. Let's see, I don't want to move myself, but I think I'm going to have to. Out of the way. So we'll just keep that there. You missed all your free throws last week, comma, didn't you? All right. And then here, Daria replied, I know who you are, Izzy James, and I'm not listening to you. And so once again, here you're talking about dialogue. When you're talking about dialogue, you need to understand that you do need commas when you are punctuating. So Daria replied, comma, I know who you are, Izzy James. So is it Izzy? Is it James? Is it Izzy and James? Here, it's hard to know without these commas. And so this is a perfect example of when you're writing, making it easy for the person to know who you're talking to. Daria replied, comma, I know who you are, comma, Izzy James. It's not Izzy and James here, it's Izzy James. How do you know? Well, I don't expect you to know without those commas in there. So that's why we would put them. And of course, it's very hard to get it to match exactly. Daria replied, comma, I know who you are, comma, Izzy James, comma, and I'm not listening to you. So you could take out the Izzy James. I know who you are and I'm not listening to you. But when you insert Izzy James, you're directly addressing, you're directly speaking to them. And then the last one, Olivia said, Daria, just relax. Izzy's just teasing us, you know? Right? So one of that has to do with dialogue when you talk about the commas. Olivia said, comma, Daria, just relax. Izzy's just teasing us, you know? Right here. Daria, comma, just relax. You're talking to Daria. Izzy's just teasing us, you know? Right there. Izzy's just teasing us, comma, you know? So when you're directly addressing somebody, the punctuation side of things, which we're still working when we're talking about dialogue, and then when you have this where whether it's the beginning or end of the sentence or in the middle, you have to pay attention to how you're doing the commas. And so for today, you're going to complete something called using commas with tag questions and direct addresses, and then look over your final draft and make sure that informational piece with your civil rights movement person that you have commas all in the right places. All right, keep working hard. You guys are awesome.